IELTS Writing, Academic Task 1, Part 3. And now we are going to talk about Step 2. Step 2 is writing your essay. We are going to begin with introduction. Remember that introduction tells the topic of the essay. Using your notes, describe what's the topic of your essay and whether it presents steps or changes. You can simply follow this easy strategy by writing the following two sentences. The first sentence, describes the topic, or you can simply paraphrase 2 or 3 words from the prompt. And your second sentence summarizes what happens from the beginning until the end. It is a general statement that gives an overview of the process or changes. Just make sure not to include any examples or specific details in your introduction. In this slide, you can see 2 examples of our introduction. One of them is for before and after diagram, and the other one is for our process diagram essay. Let's take a look at the first one. The diagram is a task 1, illustrates a housing site before and after construction. The neighborhood was much busier following the construction of the bridge. Or we have the next one. The diagram in the task 1 illustrates the process of producing chocolate from cacao beans. It makes many steps from being cacao beans in the field to becoming chocolate that people can buy at the store and enjoy it. And now we are going to review important tips that can help you write a well-written essay. First of all, for the process diagram essay, write only one body paragraph. For the diagram essay that shows changes before and after, you can write 2 body paragraphs. For example, in your body paragraph 1, you can describe what happened before, and in your body paragraph 2, you can describe what happened after. In my personal opinion, I think it's easier to do this way, and it can help you to stay focused and not get confused. Another important point to remember is making sure that you use transition words. They are very important, and they link ideas and make it easier for examiner to read your paper. Also remember to use passive voice in your body paragraph, especially when you're describing the process. A lot of times you don't really know who is the subject in your process diagram, and you have no idea who picked up, who harvested. So in this case, it's very useful to use your passive voice. And again, don't forget to be consistent with your tenses. If you use present tense, stick to present. If you are using past tense, stick to past. So when you have some time to review your essay, go back and double check that you are very consistent when it comes to tenses. And another useful point or tip would be using your prepositions of places, especially when you're describing locations. And this is a very useful point for before and after diagram essay. Make sure you include different prepositions such as next to, in front of, behind, and so on. And most importantly, make sure you know how to use them and you feel confident before taking your test. And again, always revise your work after finishing your essay. And now we are going to talk about our final step, step 3, which is checking and revising your essay. Here we have our revision checklist and things you need to do in order to attain a high score. First thing you need to do is addressing the task, which means your introduction has topic sentence or paraphrase a prompt and general statement, overview in other words. Second point you have to remember, it's a coherence. Coherence shows that you know the difference between process and changes, and you identify this and you explain it accordingly. Another part is a cohesion. Cohesion means you are using your transition words and your ideas are linked together. So in this case, we have different sentences, and these sentences, they are connected to each other. It's not just the random sentences, but they have a very good transition. And the following point we have that you have to keep in mind, it's a lexical resource. Lexical resource means that you have a variety of vocabulary words and you're not repeating the same words over and over again. So if you keep writing people, people, people in every single sentence, it's not a good idea. So try to paraphrase it, try to use different words to describe the same idea. And again, your spelling is very important. Just make sure you practice before you take your test and do your best. And last point we have, it's a grammatical range and accuracy. So that's again about sentence variety and accuracy. I explained to you previously about that too, how you need to have 4 different types of sentences, such as simple sentence, compound, complex, and compound complex sentence. Make sure you include at least one of each, and that will really help you to get a better score. And accuracy means that you're feeling confident using some grammatical patterns and also vocabulary. Please do not use words that you're not sure about, and try not to write very long sentences. Keep it simple and clear. If when you read it you don't understand it, trust me, it's going to be very hard for examiner to understand your ideas. Keep it simple and make sure you follow this checklist. Alright guys, so now I'm going to do a little recap about the most important things you need to remember about diagram essay. First of all, remember that you have only 20 minutes to complete academic writing task 1. And you have to write at least 150 words. And I mentioned that before, you can write more, but you cannot write less than 150 words. And your task is to determine whether you have a process diagram or you have a diagram about changes. You also need to identify how many steps are presented in the process diagram. Sometimes there can be 10, sometimes there can be 7, and it just depends on your diagram. So make sure you examine your diagram carefully, analyze it, and count how many steps you have. Do not miss any steps. Every step is very important. And when it comes to your before and after essay, so your task will be to identify important changes. Do not include every single change and don't talk about every single little detail. Just focus on the most important changes that happen before and after. And let's see, so next one we have, it's this is a very important point, that you have to make sure you understand the prompt and diagram before you begin writing. A lot of times students feel very nervous. They get so nervous that they don't even read it. They just start writing by looking at the diagram. But make sure that you read your prompt. Prompt has a lot of details, a lot of important details that you can use it for your advantage, actually, when you're describing the process or when you're describing what happened before and after. So read your prompt. Don't read it just one time. Make sure you read 2 or 3 times at least. And another important point is to remember that you don't need to write a conclusion when it comes to your diagram essay. And a lot of actually students ask me about this question, and sometimes some books say that you need to write a conclusion, but you don't have to. You're not going to lose any points without your conclusion in this section, in this when you write this type of essay. And so no conclusion. You have your introduction and body paragraph, so it can be only 2 paragraphs or 3, depending how you want to write. And for a lot of times before and after, I write 2 body paragraphs, so with my conclusion I would have 3 paragraphs for this type of essay. And the last point is, do not copy exact words. Instead, paraphrase the words in the task with synonyms. So if you are going to copy exact the same words from your prompt, you are going to lose some points. So try to avoid doing so. And try to be positive before you take your test. Make sure you practice. And remember that strategies are pretty much the same, tips are pretty much the same, and all these tasks you're going to have, diagrams or graphics, they are going to be quite repetitive, but the strategies you're going to use are the same. So with a lot of practice, when you go to your test, you'll know exactly what to do.